you're framing shots wrong. And it's not because you don't know the rule of thirds or golden ratio or how to make things symmetrical and or center framed, but it's because you don't know how to handle the moment the client's on set and the director is standing next to Video Village and they start barking, "Hey, why is the product so small? Can we be tighter?" Here, let's get into it. One of the main differences between shooting something for yourself or maybe YouTube or let's say a narrative project is that you can make things look cool, but on a commercial set, you've gotta be able to sell a product. You gotta be able to support a narrative, and you gotta do all these things while maintaining something looking cinematic or at least fit the tone of whatever the job you're doing. And it's never helpful to have a director plus clients all looking at a monitor with their own opinions and barking back. So you kind of have to navigate how to handle all those situations while maintaining your own stylings or personality. But first, let's get some coffee. What's up? Colombia, Las Palmas. Go. Frown upon these types of grinders. I will upgrade my grinder account. No, I'm just kidding. My grinder thing soon. But it does the job for my little taste buds. Like I said, most videos on YouTube will talk about the rule of thirds or symmetry or the golden ratio, and all those things are great and all, but the moment the client's on set looking at the monitor say, make it bigger, or the director's asking for more emotional scenes, or keeping that emotion, that's when your knowledge as a cinematographer comes in handy. Knowing what happens if we go tighter on a lens, what that does emotionally, and how that compresses the image, and maybe how that reveals the product more. Or by getting the camera in closer with a wider lens, we'll make that product even bigger, still while maintaining context to left and right of the frame for the environment, and maybe even giving a little bit more, a different type of emotion for that director. It's not just, hey, this is the shot that looks cool, let's go with it. It's, what do we have to sell? Or what are we talking about? What's this frame need to do for the next one? What's this frame coming from? You also got to think about the next and the past, and how to make sure this next frame is lining up. You see it all the time. We'll do a lock off. I mean, you look at most movies, nothing is truly locked off. You got a camera operator there following the motion ever so slightly. And of course, when in doubt, figure eight. Whether on sticks or an easy rig, you can just kind of pan the camera up and down, panning, tilting both at the same time, and floating in a slight figure eight style, just to kind of make the frame feel alive. Some other tricks are putting it between your armpit and breathing with it. I mean, those all feel forced. Mainly, just follow the action, be listening and observing what's going on. I mean, yeah, I do have rule of thirds on my monitors, but it's never on the client's monitor, and I don't always have it activated. You see all these breakdowns online of rule of thirds or symmetry or leading lines, and these are all things I'm looking for and honestly applying to all my shoots. But when you retroactively break down a frame and you pretend to say that this is what those cinematographers were doing, and they were we're not using lines, we're not using this on frame, we just kind of know what we're trying to do. We're trying to create depth. It's what kind of bugs me sometimes about some of these videos is like, oh, you see how he did this perfectly? And there are tricks we've all done, whether that's even putting tape, on the, safety glass on a monitor to say the product needs to fit exactly in this little square, and that way it stays the exact same frame throughout the rest of these shots, or just simply crosshairs, rule of thirds, or maybe just your aspect ratio. Using these structures will help you find the frame, but studying good cinematography and practicing yourself will automatically help you walk into a room and be like, boom, those are cool vertical posts. That's giving me some depth there. Ooh, we could use this bar to give you some leading lines in, or even just right now, this post bringing eye line in and this post bringing eye line in is kind of center framing you guys just to look at me. Happy accident? Yes and no. I mean, practically, this is where my camera sits on a bar table and on a towel, just tilted up a little bit. So this practically works for me because I'm just here trying to have some fun and make these videos quick and easy for anyone to learn and, not to be, hey, coffee's ready. That's great. This coffee is very practical for me. Like I said before, typically make these videos early in the morning. And so this coffee, it does more than just show that we're having a conversation over a cup of coffee. It gives me coffee in the morning. But look, every frame has a hierarchy. And if you don't decide that before showing up, then the camera's gonna decide that. Or the client's gonna decide that, even worse. So it's in your best interest to study the shot list and understand what you're trying to go for each scene. Here, let's get into it. In terms of hierarchy, here's 7 quick tips. 1, I'm not thinking about this hierarchy in terms of rules. I'm not standing at a monitor or on set looking at something and thinking, okay, let's do the rule of thirds. Okay, now I need this to be perfectly here with the product down here. No, that's not the vibe. I mean, honestly, when you chase perfection, things definitely start to feel unreal. And I'm chasing realism. I like frames that feel real. And sometimes that comes with a little bit messy around the edges. It's okay to leave a little corner of the frame where the set design feels a little messy, or maybe a window, dare I say, slightly more hot if you have to, I mean, depending on what that window is. But good rule of thumb, speaking of rules, don't blow out your windows. Or maybe a corner is really dark. Let's go that way. You know, that corner's really dark over there. That's okay. That's where the closet is. We don't need to see into that closet, and that closet just has stuff in it, and you know, it's not important to the story. Or maybe you're shooting in a garage, and the talent's walking out with tools in hand, ready to go conquer the day. And then there's you know, he's got a little bit of mess going on because it's real. 2, it starts with the subject, but it doesn't end there. Yeah, typically I'm always framing with the actor in mind in regards to how much real estate they take in the frame. But I'm always trying to make sure that the environment still sneaks in, and that we give the viewer, who's always trying to understand where they are and whatever scene they're in, you know, giving them some context to hold on to. Whether that is a window or whether that's, you know, just a part of the product in the frame. You know, we kind of always making sure that, hey, we're actually in a car right now, kind of thing. We need to make sure that we see enough of the car to know that we're in a car, or hey, they're back in their office or their study. So making sure there's enough space for the viewer to understand where they are in the context of the story is important. And 3, letting the location do the work. You know, when you're staying in a location and you're trying to force a perfect frame, that's where the location sometimes can fight back. But if you move around the space and you find something unique about it, that's where the location, you know, offers something that's different. I recently just did a commercial down in Northwest Arkansas where most of the scenes took place on the main floor, but they had a very unique open staircase in the middle of the space going down to the lower level that offered, you know, honestly, a unique opportunity to get the camera down there. This is a pet commercial, so the dog was gonna, let's have the dog run up those stairs to the owner who's gonna take him on a walk, kind of thing. I mean, we had that scene boarded up against a window, but because this space was kind of small and contained, we honestly were shooting all around this space, and I wanted to make a new frame and make things feel different. So this was a perfect example of when the space offers something unique. And that's where sometimes the difference between shooting on location or building your set in a studio can have its strengths. I'm actually kind of a big fan shooting on location because of the limitations. It does force you to be creative. When you're shooting in a studio and you have the flexibility of moving a wall or raising up a counter, or you know, just making our full control of a window light, I feel like that's when things start to feel fake. But don't get me wrong, shooting in a studio, you know, for any number of days can have its perks, especially one, you're not dealing with the elements outside, but it's that restraint that a real location has, gives you the challenge of being creative. And that's what we're here for. We're here to be creative. And 4, imperfect feels better. We've hit this point quite a bit, but I need to nail it home that sometimes asymmetry is better than just total symmetry. If you're out there saying, I want to be known for my symmetrical framing, that's cool. And I think there's space for you in this industry, and there's space, and there's clients who are looking for people just like you. Go for it. I think there is realism in symmetry. I do like finding leading lines or things that stack well together, or just like when symmetry starts to naturally happen, I'm not against that. But it's not the thing that I'm gonna force a moment to happen within, because then I think you're just putting on too many restraints for, let's say, the talent to perform in or the product to stand out in. Sometimes when there's such perfect symmetry, the viewer's noticing that more than they're noticing the product. That's where a little bit of asymmetry comes in handy. None of us are perfect. I mean, maybe you are the viewer, but I know for myself, I'm not. Well, 5, depth over tricks. You know, I'm always looking for foreground, subject, and background. If looking for symmetry is a trick, then maybe you're missing out on foreground, subject, and background. On every single location, I'm looking at what is the background, what can we not control, typically you're gonna have more control for your subject and typically for your foreground. But it's that background. It's like, oh, this is the kitchen wall, these are the windows, and I'm pushing light through these windows onto that kitchen wall. Here's this one window we can't really have full control over, so we build things kind of around that. And then at the subject, that's where all your lighting instruments are going. You know, you're filling, you're covering, you know, you're blocking light, you're shaping light, you're taking away light with negative fill. You're in your foreground. Typically, definitely one of the most easy things to control. By always adding a little bit of foreground elements, whether that's if you're on a golf course and that's some brush blowing in the wind, or you know, maybe you're at a garage and you're trying to show a little bit of the frame from the outside of the garage looking in, and whatever you can do to kind of make this frame feel 3D or have dimensions to it is part of the goal on trying to make things feel real and trick the viewers into realizing they're not just watching a 2D image, you know, take place. They're trying to get their bearings and understand where they are in this frame. And 6, framing with movement in mind. I'm a big fan of rocking the easy rig or going on a Dana Dolly, or if we're lucky enough, JL Fisher, Techno Crane, or the works. The big difference between photography and cinematography is the ability for us to move camera from A to B. Now that's also the reason why I would say it's harder, is because you got a light for A to B. Thinking about movement in mind is super crucial. And one of my key takeaways I've seen is the locked off frame. If you ever watch a movie, notice those edges. Watch any movie on Netflix, any Oscar-winning movie. I'm not talking about some of the movies they've been throwing up there that maybe feel a little rushed. But any of these Oscar movies or whatever, the camera really is never locked off. Granted, it's locked off now because I'm making a YouTube video and it's just me and this tripod. But the camera's never locked off, and it's often floating just a little bit, staying with the action. Being prepared if the talent's gonna stand up. Maybe just slightly doing a figure 8, keep the energy alive. One of my big things about movement and or camera height is when you're standing with the camera on your shoulder, kind of at your eye line, it feels normal. I'm 6'3", the camera perspective at 6'3" feels pretty on average for what everyone else sees, up tall. But when you drop that camera to an easy rig waist height, looking up, it has a little bit more of a child's perspective, or just something different than us adults see on a day-to-day basis. That's why almost automatically the frame feels unique when you drop it a little bit lower. You walk around a room, you see everything at your eye's perspective. Get a little lower, it feels different. Finally, 7, the frame has to feel lived in. I want every bit of that frame, although well designed and perfectly, kind of placed, I want it to feel real. And like I said, this is this commercial that's top of mind down in Arkansas, where we had a talent in the dog on a couch, and the dog jumps up and messes up some pillows, and now it's no longer perfect. Well, it started to actually help give more realism to the frame. Well, let's say you're doing a sports piece and the talent is moving quickly, and you kind of maybe creep on that hairline a little too much or give them too much negative space, and that feels real. Getting your scenario set up, knowing what you're trying to go for, and then allowing some of those imperfections to creep its way in is not bad. Now granted, you still got directors in Video Village to approve of, and making them feel happy sometimes can be just another takeaway. But here's a tip on how to make a frame feel unique and special. A frame feel unique and special. Here's something that most people, I feel like, overlook on a shoot day. And it's the insert shot. It's not just a close-up for close-up's sake. It's adding interest. It's breaking up the monotony of medium shots. And it's showing something more unique than what you would see in a wide shot. Personally, we walk around, we see wide shots all day with our eyes. Insert shots are very unique because we don't look at things that closely. And the best thing I like to use is diopters. If you don't have a set of diopters, you can find cheap ones, but having ones that fit in your matte box for sure makes it a little bit easier when you're shooting. A diopter changes the minimal focus on a lens. It allows you to get even closer to a subject and allows you to see things, in a more unique perspective. We use diopters all the time when we're shooting anamorphic, because an anamorphic lens typically has a close focus of anywhere between 2 and 3 feet, or maybe 1 and 3 feet, something where you want to get a little closer like I am right now, and the lens is just too limited. On every commercial I go on, whether it's maybe not even planned, I'm typically adding a set of diopters to the order, just so that maybe there's a moment saying, what would break up this wide, medium shot is if we sneak in an insert. Maybe the guy cooking and the oil is flying in the air, and whatever the food is, or this dog ad where you get a little tighter on the product, which is a food brand, a dog food brand, or like for sports, anytime you can get in and have that motion of the athlete running and doing drills, and he stops and turns, and luckily enough in this shot, a bunch of icicles were flying up in the air. That's how cold it was. Now this guy was kind of a trooper on this one. The insert shot is a pretty key thing to do, all depending on what kind of lenses you're shooting on. Most of the commercial space we're shooting with cinema lenses, and certain cinema lenses don't quite have the ability. The worst thing you can say to a director is, that's minimum focus. Can we get any tighter? We had to switch lenses, and he's like, I like this framing. Can we get any tighter? Nope, I didn't order the diopters like I should have. I'm a cinematographer who didn't do that. Yeah, kind of the worst thing is saying no to a director. So having those things already on set is a pro move. Anyways, all right, back to it. At the end of the day, framing is where your taste shows up. Personally, I love to always find depth. I'm no stranger to using leading lines, finding symmetry, center framing, and of course using rule of thirds for most of my framing just as a good place to put eyes and help balance out an image. But it's not hard and fast. It's something that I'll break for whatever reason, whether that's the location forcing me in a direction or providing me an opportunity to go one direction, or maybe the client / director saying, hey, can we get tighter? Can we do this? Can we widen out a little bit? There's so many reasons why the frame might shift. You could take two people with the same camera and same lenses looking at a subject and come up with two totally different frames, because it's just taste. It's how people see things. Someone might want to get low and symmetrical. Someone might want to prefer top down and, asymmetrical or something. We all have our tastes, and that's why there's plenty of space on this platform and, in this industry for people to learn and grow. The way that you frame something could be totally different than the way that I frame something. And that's the job. That's why you might be hired over a job versus I might be hired over a job. And that's not a bad thing. It's just our different tastes and it's our different styles. But learning from each other, I think, is a great way to expand our experiences and, keep enjoying what is definitely the coolest job in the world, is working on a film set. If you want to see more of my work, you can check out stevenscgreathouse.com. Thanks for watching. Peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.